Hey, good afternoon. Today I'm working on a 2010 Gibson Les Paul Traditional. What we're doing today is we're checking the neck relief. We're going to do a little bit of work with the truss rod to make sure it's working properly. And on this guitar, it's my personal guitar, and I've kind of neglected doing much work with the frets. And I have a couple frets here, up here, the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and a few up in this area that have been worn a little bit. So today I'm going to do a crown on these frets and also polish the frets. This will take a little bit of work. I'm going to have to remove the strings. After I've done the work on the frets, I'm going to set up the intonation again, check the neck relief, and get it set up to play perfectly. And we'll use an assortment of tools today. We're going to use some fret files, my gauge, and my measuring tool to set the pickup height and string height and action. So hang in there and we'll get to it. So we're going to start off today checking the relief on the fretboard, and I'll be checking this at the 5th fret. I'm checking this at 12,000ths of an inch. The 7th. We do not have quite enough relief on this. So that means I'm going to have to loosen the truss rod on this guitar slightly. We do this in very, very small increments. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, as with all guitars and most nuts and bolts. So I'm going to loosen this. And this truss rod feels really good. I've got about 1/8 of a turn there. I'm going to give it just one little skosh more. And we'll check this relief again. Fretting the guitar at the 17th fret. I can go to the 19th, 17th fret, and we'll check our relief now at the 5th and the 7th. Boy, that is nearly perfect. I personally like my relief to be about 10/11,000th of an inch. That's where I prefer it. So now I'm going to check my 1st fret action on this guitar. Gibson specs call for 20,000ths of an inch here at the 1st fret, so we'll check that. I tend to like mine a little lower, and I have done a little bit of work on this nut to get that down around 18,000ths. I'm using a 20,000ths meter or gauge here to check, and it should lift that string ever so slightly, and it certainly does. We'll check this. You're going to get a good shot of my elbow on the high E string, and we're still a little short, which is exactly where I like it. I'm going to grab the 18,000th gauge, and I'm guessing, boy, we're still a little low there. I think maybe our neck relief can be increased slightly. That's 18,000th. I really want to see where I'm at. So we're going to go down to 15,000th of an inch. And let's see where we're at here. And that's perfect. At 15,000th, I can live with that. The idea there is that the action up here at the end of the neck is easy to feeling alright. I'm used to that. I've been playing this guitar for a long time, so should be good. Hang on, we'll be right back. So here we are taking a look at the whole guitar. I know the electronics are all working well in this guitar, no clicks or beeps. It gets heavily used, so the volume pots generally work perfectly. Not generally, have since the day I bought it. Tone controls work great. I usually back them off a little bit and try not to run the volume all the way up when I'm playing. I usually back it off to about 8 or so and then use that little extra bit for a guitar solo. Classic 57 in the bridge position, and a 57 or 57 classic, and a normal 57 in the neck position. This guitar is also going to get the frets filed on it today. They're not terrible, but they definitely can use a little bit of a shine. And again, these upper 3, 4 frets definitely need a new crown on there. The files I use will remove microns of material off of there, so I'm not lowering the action or lowering the fret height at all. I'm just taking off a little bit around the sides of the tops of the frets today, and so you'll just be a slight removal of material around that, and hopefully you can see that wear a little bit. There's definitely a dent there, but it's nothing major. I can crown it and it'll be fine. I'm gonna give this guy a nice polish, and we'll see how it works out. So need to get the strings off of this and get to work on getting those frets crowned. Here we go. So taking strings off a guitar, a very useful tool. The old string winder. We'll just loosen them up. I don't like to mess around with this too terribly much. And you can see this. That's how we roll. So the first thing I want to do after taking the strings off, I've gotten the fretboard cleaned with some good old-fashioned Simple Greens, the best stuff on earth for cleaning your guitars or just about anything. Wonderful product. So I'm going to check, make sure that this neck is perfectly flat. I'm not doing a level on the fretboard. I'm simply doing a crown, but I want to make sure that this neck sits perfectly flat with no strings on it. And as it is not. It definitely has some relief. So we're going to loosen the truss rods slightly. We're going to tighten the truss rods slightly. Give it a little bit of a turn here. See what happens. And with that slight little movement, this neck is almost perfectly flat. So now that I have that fretboard perfectly flat, it's time to begin work on the frets and getting these crowns set up right. These are medium frets, and so I will be using a medium fret file to do this. And the fretboard has a radius from top to bottom. There's a slight curvature. This happens to be a 12-inch. So I'm going to start here with the first fret. Now, you also may notice that I'm not taping off the fretboard. That's why they make these tools. And I can already see this fret improving. Beautiful. Start. I think the next time I have to do this on this guitar, it is going to be time to do a whole level job. It might take a year or so to get to that point. I'm not pushing real hard with the file down into the fret. A little bit of pressure. We're not removing really any fret height at all. We're just putting a curvature, a crown on the very top of that fret, taking off the material on either side to make certain that that string is hitting the fret in a very, very minimal amount of space. Helps with intonation. So, the next process, polishing. Start with about a 600 grit sandpaper and move up to a 2000 grit. Alright, so here we go, making our first pass over these frets. I just crowned them. Got that rough file. I believe that's about 150 grit-ish file that I used. And starting off with some 600 wet dry sandpaper, giving them a nice kind of rough shine, I suppose, at this point. So I'll finish this up, and we'll move on to the G2 1500 and my 3M 2000. Hang in there. So yes, we're moving forward with the 1500. Do this by hand. There's no automation for doing this kind of work. Maybe the Gibson Guitar Factory or a guitar shop or company or sweatshop in Korea, maybe China, maybe Vietnam. Maybe they have a automated machine, but I'm guessing it's somebody's elbow working. We'll be done with the 15 in a minute. We'll be right back. Alright, so I finished up with the 15, and you can see get a little bit of a gray on the old fingers. Ain't nothing like working a little bit for something. And time to move on to the 2000. And typically what I do, cut a very small strip, and then take that strip, cut it into smaller pieces. Now, I generally fold mine in half, throw it on there, and go. A little more elbow grease. Here we go. Oh my. Oh, those frets look beautiful. Well, here we are once again, and I'm hoping that you can see the difference in these frets. They're definitely still very minute fret wear on these guys, but I'm cool with that. And this is doing a great job polishing. I'll probably hit this one more time with the Neverdull. And again, with Neverdull, store it upside down. You may ask why. Figure that out. Alright, I've finished polishing the frets, and boy, I hope that looks as shiny to you as it does to me. That's what these frets are looking like now. Can't wait to play it. That's going to be fun. And this guitar is pretty darn shiny. I'm real happy with this. You know, I don't play out a lot live, so I'm not terribly concerned about my guitars looking perfect. And well, let's see. Here's proof of that. I don't care if a guitar's pretty, as long as it works. And this one's stunning. Oh, I put a new knob on my Stratocaster today too. I fixed that knob with some Elmer's wood glue. Very tiny little dot of that on the stem, which should keep it in place. It'll fall off again eventually, and guess what? I have 3 more to put on there just in case I lose it. Happens a lot with Stratocasters. I'm just suffice with using the Elmer's wood glue on it. Bonus today. Oh, and this is pretty cool. This little Indian head penny on this guitar. Hopefully you can see that. 1900. It doubles as a push-pull pot for humbuckers, split coils in the pickups. Kind of cool. The Indian head penny used to be on the volume pot. However, I found that the penny on the top of that knob makes it very easy to grab and pull. There you go. Ugly guitar. So now that I've got the guitar all cleaned up and polished, I am going to treat the neck with some Artisan linseed oil. The next thing I have to do with this guitar is restring it, check the relief again, check the string action, set up the intonation, and give it a good test run. I'm going to let it sit overnight, and then I'll recheck everything tomorrow. I have adjusted the truss rod slightly, and sometimes they will do some odd stuff with that. So I'm going to get strings on this. I'll be right back. So we've gotten the strings back on this bad boy, and we're checking the neck relief. See what we've got here. I had the neck completely perfectly flat when I started this. I'm going to push down on the 17th fret, and after I put a set of Ernie Ball Slinky 10s at 12 thousandths, I wouldn't touch that. That's perfect. I used regular Slinky Ernie Ball 10 to 46, and they are doing their job perfectly, and they are in tune perfectly. So the next thing I'm going to do is check our string height, and we will move forward to intonation. I expect this guitar to be pretty well intonated at this point, so hang in there. So we're setting up the string height on this guitar, and this is a Gibson Les Paul. Gibson specifications call for 5/64 of an inch from the 12th fret to the bottom of the low E string, and they want about 4 to 3/64 on the top end. The action can be set generally if you have a good level fretboard and level frets. You can set it about as low as you want and still have playability. As the string gets lower or closer to the frets, you run the risk of having some fret buzz. And I run mine a little lower than typical Gibson specifications. So I'm going to check this right now, and I need to take my glasses off for this. So right now, that's millimeters. Let me fix this. We don't want millimeters, we want inches. And I am 1/64 of an inch high. I'm seeing about 6/64 on the low E. So that can come down a bit. And on the high E, I am seeing exactly 4/64. I'm going to check the interim strings just to make sure our neck radius is looking good, and we're at 4.5, about 4.5, and we're seeing 5. We're getting closer. 4 and 4. So we're dropping this string down. We want 1/64. I'm going to try it right there. And on this side, I'm going to take it ever so slightly, because I like my action nice and low. I'm going to retune this thing up. We will check this again. We want 1/64 of an inch. And right now I am showing, ooh, boy, that's 5/64. I think I'm going to go with that. And right here we're at 3.5/64. I mean, I can see it. Let's check playability here. Let's see if we have any fret buzz or... Whew. Boy, that feels good. Not one bit. I mean, who actually plays up there? I don't. Well, maybe somebody, John Petrucci or Joe. I'm sure that Tom Morello does. Sounds pretty good. This is the first time I've actually played the instrument since I did the fretwork on it, and it just feels very smooth. And you'll notice my guitar staying in tune. I stretched the strings. Well, welcome back. Have the guitar strung up, tuned up, intonated. If you look at the video earlier, you might take a look at the saddles and see how they've changed position slightly. It's in perfectly good tune. Really big open E chord. Sounds perfect. Sounds perfect. There's no tuning issues. The guitar's in perfect tune. You play a D chord and it's all out of tune, but with this guitar, it's in perfect tune. That is what the intonation is all about, and it's why they put these saddles here the way they have. You know, it's in tune. I set up your guitar the exact same way I set up mine. The smoothness from polishing and getting those crowns set is remarkable. The difference is really truly amazing. The guitar is just making me play. So really proud of the setup that I did today. You know, you just watch me bend the crap out of these strings and still in tune. Stays in tune.